The FDA removes black box warning for over 20 hormone therapy drugs. In a landmark decision for women's health, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has announced a major change that could impact tens of millions of women. For over 2 decades, a black box warning, the most serious the FDA can issue, has been required on hormone therapy products for menopause. This warning became a source of widespread fear, leaving many women to suffer through debilitating symptoms, believing they had no safe or effective options. But that is now changing. The FDA has officially asked drug manufacturers to remove the black box warning from more than 20 hormone therapy drugs. In this video, we'll break down what this historic decision means for you. We'll explore the science that has changed everything and discuss the immediate impact this will have on patients and their doctors. This is the story of how a 20-year-old medical dogma is finally being corrected, and how it could change the conversation around menopause forever. To get why this announcement is so huge, we have to rewind to 2002. That's the year a massive study, the Women's Health Initiative, or WHI, published early results that sent shockwaves through the medical community. The study was stopped ahead of schedule because initial findings linked combination hormone therapy, estrogen plus a progestin, to a higher risk of breast cancer, heart disease, and strokes. The news created a media frenzy. Before the WHI study, tons of postmenopausal women used hormone replacement therapy, or HRT, to manage their symptoms. After the results came out, that number plummeted. In 2003, the FDA responded by mandating a black box warning on all estrogen-containing products. This is the agency's strongest safety warning, and it's reserved for drugs with potentially life-threatening side effects. The message was loud, clear, and terrifying. Hormone therapy is dangerous. As a result, an entire generation of doctors grew hesitant to prescribe it, and millions of women were told to fear the very treatment that could have eased their suffering. This created what FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty Makary recently called a fear machine. Women were left to just endure years of hot flashes, night sweats, sleep loss, and mood swings, all because their quality of life and mental health took a nosedive. Many felt unheard or dismissed, a feeling often called medical gaslighting, as they were told their awful symptoms were just a natural part of aging. The black box warning wasn't just a label, it was a barrier that caused needless suffering for millions. So what went wrong? Well, over the last 20 years, a growing number of experts started to re-examine the original WHI study, and they found some pretty big flaws. For starters, look at what they studied. The WHI trial mostly enrolled older women with an average age of 63, many of whom were well into their late 60s and 70s. That's a long time after menopause usually starts. We now know that when you start hormone therapy, it's critical. The risks and benefits look completely different for a healthy 52-year-old who starts therapy close to her last period, compared to a 68-year-old starting it nearly 2 decades later. Another issue was the kind of hormones used. The WHI study used oral hormones from a horse's urine and a synthetic progestin. Those are pretty different from the bioidentical hormones in the transdermal patches and gels that are most common today. Later research has suggested these newer methods might have a lower risk of blood clots and strokes. Basically, the study's scary conclusions were slapped as a blanket warning on all women, no matter their age, health, or the type of hormone therapy they were looking at. All the nuance was lost. Reanalyses of the same WHI data have painted a much brighter picture when researchers focused on the younger women, those who started HRT before 60 or within 10 years of menopause. The story changed. For these women, the benefits often appeared to outweigh the risks. In fact, for women in the study who took estrogen alone because they'd had hysterectomy, the data actually showed a reduced risk of breast cancer and fewer deaths from it. But the damage was already done. For 2 decades, the fear from the initial interpretation dominated the conversation. This left a generation of women without access to what the North American Menopause Society has long called the most effective treatment for menopausal symptoms. The solution, a landmark decision based on new science. This brings us to the FDA decision, which is now officially asking manufacturers to remove box warnings about increased risks of cardiovascular disease, breast cancer, and probable dementia for many hormone therapy products. This decision wasn't made on a whim. It follows a huge review of 2 decades of scientific research and input from an expert advisory panel. The FDA is basically saying that the science has moved on. In a statement, FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty Makary said, "Tragically, tens of millions of women have been denied the life-changing and long-term therapy benefits of hormone replacement therapy because of a medical dogma rooted in a distortion of risk." He called the long-standing demonization of hormone therapy an American tragedy. The new FDA guidance reflects the modern scientific consensus. The main takeaway is that for most healthy women who start hormone therapy before they turn 60 or within 10 years of menopause, the benefits are likely to outweigh the risks. And what are those benefits? Besides relief from things like hot flashes and night sweats, studies now suggest that when started early, hormone therapy may have protective health benefits. Randomized studies cited by officials showed that early use can reduce bone fractures, cardiovascular disease, and even Alzheimer's disease. It is important to note that one key exception: the FDA is not seeking to remove the box warning for endometrial cancer on products with only estrogen. This is a well-known risk. Women who still have their uterus must take a progestogen with estrogen to protect their uterine lining. This new ruling doesn't change that. So what does this all mean for you, starting today? This is about empowerment. It gets rid of an unnecessary barrier and a major source of fear, allowing you and your doctor to have an open, personalized conversation about managing your menopause symptoms. The conversation is no longer about a scary, one-size-fits-all warning. The conversation is now about you. It's about your age, your specific symptoms, your personal health history, and your quality of life. The new labeling will recommend that systemic therapies like pills, patches, and gels should generally be started within 10 years of the start of menopause or before age 60. This lines up with guidelines from major medical groups like the North American Menopause Society and the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. This is your chance to reconnect with your doctor. If you've been suffering in silence or were told that hormone therapy was just too risky, it's time to make an appointment. When you talk to your doctor, be ready to discuss your personal situation and ask questions like, based on my age and where I am in menopause, am I a good candidate for hormone therapy? What are my personal risks and benefits? Looking at my health history. What are the different types of hormone therapy like patches, gels, or pills, and which one would be right for me? How will we monitor my health if I start therapy? This FDA decision is a powerful sign that the medical establishment is finally catching up with the science and, more importantly, listening to women. If you found this video helpful, please share it. There's so much misinformation out there, and getting the right information to people is key to ending the unnecessary suffering so many have gone through. For over 20 years, a dark cloud has hung over menopause treatment. A flawed interpretation of a single study created a culture of fear that has affected millions of lives. Today, that cloud is finally starting to lift. The FDA's decision is a vindication for the women who felt dismissed and for the medical experts who have been pushing for this change for years. It's a return to medicine that's based on evidence. The real story here isn't just a label change, it's a declaration that women's health matters. It's a message that suffering from debilitating menopause symptoms is not something you just have to accept. And it's about restoring a woman's right to make an informed choice about her body and health, based on data and not fear. This marks a new chapter for menopause care, one that's all about empowerment, personal choice, and hope. Thanks for watching.